Heha tēnei mea, te reo Māori trauma or Māori language trauma. Pātai tino pai tērā. Māori language trauma or te reo Māori trauma refers to a person's emotional, psychological or spiritual distress, physical injury caused by harmful events or associated with harmful events that impacts their direct ability or willingness to learn and or speak te reo Māori. Right now, that is the current working definition of what te reo Māori trauma or what Māori language trauma is. The important part about that definition is the impact that that injury has on someone's ability to learn and or speak te reo Māori. So, with the stories that our kaumātua have handed on to us, the physical injury that they experienced at kura, our brains do this really amazing thing where we create really fast formulas. So the brain goes, te reo Māori equals pain, pain is bad, te reo Māori is bad, don't do it. And so there's a psychological thing that happens too, where we make that quick formula and stop speaking te reo Māori. And then there are other associations with te reo Māori where when we hear it, there's a physical, visceral reaction that we go through. That anxiety, that mamai, that those memories bring back. That's the impact of those injuries on us, and they don't go away. We live with them. What is the difference between te reo Māori trauma and historical trauma? So what I needed to do with this research was to actually start to notice the differences. So firstly, we needed to find out actually what is trauma? This word that we kind of assume we know what it means, but specifically, it's the coping mechanisms that we deal with the initial injury. That's what the trauma is. And then with language trauma, I wanted to distinguish generic language from te reo Māori. So our kaumātua who experienced that injury in the past, they have no problems in speaking English and telling you exactly what they think, and they have no trouble in expressing themselves in English and communicating. But the trouble comes with speaking and expressing themselves in te reo Māori. So I wanted to separate te reo Māori trauma from language trauma in general. And then historical trauma, that is a mass trauma, that is systemic, and it hands down through generations. But it impacts every aspect of our life. And it impacts the disparities between Indigenous peoples in particular and the general population. So that's health, education, economic, poverty, incarceration, all of that. What motivated me to research te reo Māori trauma, I was watching the documentary on TVNZ, Speak No Māori, and there was a conversation about language trauma. And I was like, that makes sense. Yes, it makes sense that we would be dealing with language trauma, but what is it? The passion behind it is that it kind of sounds like it's another reason why for the decline of te reo Māori. But more importantly, it sounds like a really huge barrier to acquiring te reo Māori and speaking te reo Māori. And I wanted to start to identify what those barriers are so that we can start developing strategies on disappearing those barriers. That's the ultimate goal, is to disappear barriers caused by te reo Māori trauma. Kia puāwai te reo Māori, kia puāwai te iwi Māori. Why did I deliberately exclude Māori education studies from this particular literature review? I started there. I started with the Māori education literature, especially Wali Peneteto's book on what's Māori about Māori education. And I wanted to look at, the policies and the systems and what was happening. What was prevalent is conversations about kaupapa Māori in the health system, Māori psychology, historical trauma is a big conversation in that space. No one is talking specifically about te reo Māori trauma, but the focus is on the impacts of health systems, of health disparities on the people, not what this thing is, what te reo Māori trauma is, and exactly how our health is directly impacted by this very specific trauma. Why did I go to social media to look at what's being said and what are the conversations that are being said about te reo Māori trauma? Because that's where it's happening. It's through social media that people are talking about it, that people are sharing. And the really cool thing about social media is that it's real time right now. It could take months, even years, to publish a single piece of research and years to publish a book on te reo Māori trauma, for example. But on social media, in a minute, we're done. One of the things I would really love for people to get, those of us who experienced te reo Māori trauma or are trying to figure out how to cope with their Māori language trauma, you are not alone. Everyone experiences trauma in the te reo Māori space in different ways. We also have different ways of coping with it. Whether you're new to te reo Māori or whether you're an experienced native language speaker, we all experience fear, anxiety, and quite often that fear and anxiety can sometimes come from fear of getting it wrong, fear of making a mistake, fear of offending someone. There are also fears of, I should already know this. I should already know how to speak Māori, and because I don't, I'm not good enough. You are not alone if you are feeling that and if you experience that. And those feelings are totally natural. They're natural, there is nothing wrong with them, and there is an inherited way of coping. We cope the same way our mothers do or our fathers do. We follow their role modelling. And so nothing is your fault. Nothing is wrong. It's perfectly natural for your heart to start beating really, really quickly when you get scared. It's also perfectly natural for your heart to start beating really fast when you're super excited. So there's an opportunity in that moment to choose. Am I scared of something or am I super excited about something? And if te reo Māori is something you want to learn and you want to be confident with, choose excitement.